Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever it is for you, welcome back to another Diablo video. My name is Prime, and today we're gonna dive into one of the best Sorc builds for leveling World Tier 1, World Tier 2, and just playing through the story, and it will hold up an end game as well. We might need to change a few things, but today we're gonna focus on the skill tree, and of course I'm gonna show you some gameplay next to that. This will be a shock and an ice build and a little bit of fire as well, so you can call it a Sorc shock and ice build, and it is a lot of fun to play with. You are very tanky and very powerful. We're gonna work from a basic skill and then go to some defensive skills, go over the whole skill tree. I'm gonna show you how to build into this tree, and for today I'm gonna show you how to build towards this build with all your abilities within the skill tree, and then in the future I will show you some builds with all the gear as well. But for now, the gear is not that important. If you find some gear, just make sure that you equip the ones that are stronger until you get to your rare and your legendary items, and then you can see what works for your build the best. So let's jump right into the abilities, and this is all going to be evolving around Arc Lash. Arc Lash is a basic skill, and unleashing Arcane Lightning that deals 42% damage to enemies in front of you, and every time Arc Lash swipes, it stuns all enemies for 2 seconds. So every 10th time that you spam this skill, you will stun every enemy for 2 seconds, and we are working towards that. A stun and ice build. So for our first few ability points, we're going to boost that into Arc Lash, and I will have a full list of whatever you need to do per level to stack them up in your abilities. So starting off with Arc Lash, just pump your first 5 points into Arc Lash, then go to Enhanced Arc Lash. If Arc Lash initial swipe critical strikes, it swipes an additional time. Because we're working towards a crit build, this will swipe a lot. And then, if you hit a critical chance, there are a lot less times that you need to swipe. So maybe you only have to swipe yourself 5 to 6 times to get that stun active for 2 seconds. And when we activated this, we're gonna jump over to the Glinting Arc Lash. Hitting a stunned enemy with Arc Lash reduces your cooldown by 0.15 seconds. Because we're working towards stun, towards ice, and a little bit of fire, this is going to be so helpful. You're getting your skills back a lot faster, and of course your ultimate comes back faster as well. And this is a great setup for the build itself. So now our first 7 points are spent. You can see that our first core skills opened up, but we're gonna ignore that for now. We're gonna jump over to our defensive skills. And like I said, this is going to be a defensive skill build while you still do damage, and I think this is a great build if you're getting used to the game. Yes, you need to be up close to the enemies, but you are so incredibly strong. So let's start with our first defensive skill, and that is going to be the Ice Armor. This Ice Armor makes a barrier around you for 6 seconds, absorbing 30% of your base life in damage. While Ice Armor is active, 5% of your damage dealt is added to the barrier itself. Then we're gonna jump over to Enhanced Ice Armor. While Ice Armor is active, your mana regeneration is increased by 25%. Because we're not using any mana at all, we will always be at our cap of mana, so we can do some more damage, and this one is not really necessary. But we're doing it for the next one. Enemies you hit while Ice Armor is active have 15% chance to become frozen for 3 seconds. Like I said, we're trying to do some damage against frozen, against stunned, vulnerable enemies as well, and then a little bit of fire, so make sure to go for that shimmering Ice Armor. And then from this defensive skill, we're jumping over to the teleport. And why teleport? This will help you out a lot as well, as you can just get away from mobs. You can just teleport right through them and you will do some damage. While we used it, while this becomes on cooldown, we will shock enemies around us as well. Again, stopping the enemies for attacking you, gaining some extra survivability and doing some extra damage to stunned enemies. Then we will go over to our enhanced teleport. The cooldown is decreased by 0.5 seconds per enemy hit, up to 3 seconds. So you just go through a pack of enemies and then you will definitely have that extra 3 seconds cooldown. So our teleport on the base will go back to 8 seconds of cooldown. But don't forget, my whole character is empty. I don't have a build on, as you can see. I don't have anything on my build itself. I just removed every piece of gear so I can show you what the base abilities and the base damage is. So like I said, this is mostly around your skill tree. After you done teleport, we're gonna jump over to our next basic skill, and that is going to be Frost Nova. Like I said at the beginning, we're doing damage against frozen enemies, shocked or stunned enemies, and of course a little bit of fire and vulnerable enemies as well. So this will definitely help you out. You can just teleport into a group, activate the Frost Nova, everybody around you will be frozen. Because we're doing extra damage against stunned enemies and frozen enemies, you will only have to hit your Arc Lash a couple of times and they will be gone. Then jumping over to our next piece, and that is Enhanced Frost Nova. Killing enemies frozen by Frost Nova reduces cooldown by 1 second up to 4 seconds per cast. Again, if you teleport into a group of enemies, use that Frost Nova, kill everybody around you, you will definitely get those 4 seconds of cooldown on there. So again, this goes down to 20 seconds without any gear active. When you activate Enhanced Frost Nova, we're gonna jump over to Mystical Frost Nova. Frost Nova makes enemies vulnerable for 4 seconds and increase to 6 seconds against bosses. Again, we're doing damage against vulnerable enemies, so this will definitely come in clutch. Now that you used 16 points, we can use our first enhanced slot. Enhanced slots are the enhancements that the Sorc only gets. Every single character has its own special ability, and the enhancements are the special ability of the Sorc. The first one that we're gonna use is our Arc Lash. So make sure to press X on your Arc Lash or whatever it is on your platform, and then put it on your first enhancement slot, confirming it, giving us our Arc Lash an extra boost. When you use a cooldown, enemies around you are stunned for 0.7 seconds. And this just comes in clutch, guys. Every time that we use Arc Lash, so again, if you just dive into a group of enemies and then just use your Frost Nova, because this skill goes into cooldown, everybody around you will be stunned for 0.7 seconds, and if you just use your Arc Lash a couple of times, they will get annihilated. 0.7 seconds of stun doesn't sound that much, but it is a start, doing that extra damage at the start. So there is a big chance that you instantly wipe out just open world mobs or even dungeon mobs. After you enhance your Arc Lash and make sure that you use Mystical Frost Nova, we're going over to the next tree, and that is the Mastery Skill Tree. And within the Mastery Skill Tree, you can go 2 ways. You can go for a little bit more survivability if you don't think that your build is holding up to the damage. Then go for the Icy Veil, as your barriers have 5% increased duration. You can boost it up all the way to 15%, but I would go for Static Discharge. Critical strikes with shock skills have up to 5% to form crackling energy. We're not really doing it for this one, but we're doing it for the second one, and that is Shocking Impact. Every time you stun an enemy, you deal 15% lightning damage to them. So make sure to put your 3 skills into that, you're gaining an extra 45% lightning damage. Whatever your build holds will do that extra damage, and you only have to stun them. And don't forget, every time that a skill goes into cooldown, you will stun enemies around you, so doing that extra 45% lightning damage to them without even doing anything, only using your skills. And because we are using 4 defensive skills, we will be pretty low on our cooldown and no mana consumption whatsoever. So we will hit those guys a lot with that extra lightning damage. After you put 3 more skill points into Shocking Impact, you can see that we still need 3 more points to activate our ultimate. And we're gonna spend that again into defensive. As you heard me saying it, we are fighting with 4 defensive skills, but we just activated only 3. The 4th one will be the Flame Shield, and this will give you some extra survivability. Although the duration is only 2.1 seconds, this will still do a lot for you because we're gonna boost it up a little bit more. We're going to Enhanced Flame Shield, as your movement speed will be up to 25%. For this build, that doesn't really matter because we're just standing still in front of the enemies, tanking the damage and just doing incredible damage towards them. But we're doing it for the Shimmering Flame Shield. Flame Shield heals you for 50% of your missing life. Although this is only for 2.1 seconds, that Flame Shield, it will set people on fire. That will help us out critting and doing more damage to the enemies. And now healing us as well. So if you are close to death, you don't have potions, you don't have heal capsules anymore, use the Flaming Shield, you will heal up another 50%. After you activated this, then our ultimate tree opens up and we're going for Unstable Currents. This has a cooldown of 70 seconds, but again, I don't have any gear on me, so this will be a lot lower. Even though you are wearing just normal gear, this will definitely go down. And this is just the best ultimate skill to go for this setup. Lightning surges within you for 10 seconds. Whenever you cast a shock skill, a random core, conjuration, or a mastery shock skill is also cast. Because we're using a lot of different shock skills, just spam all those shock skills one after the other, and then a lot of extra damage comes out of it, and you can just shred through elite bosses if they're nothing. Then if you did this, we're jumping over to the Prime Unstable Currents. Unstable Currents increases your attack speed by 25% while active. So the 10 seconds that we have Unstable Currents active, we will go up to 25% on our attack speed. So this will definitely help out spamming our Arc Lash a lot more. And then of course getting more cooldown in, getting our skills back faster, stunning people faster, critting people faster, and this just comes together so incredibly good. So, Prime Unstable Currents, and then we're gonna jump over to the Supreme Unstable Currents. While Unstable Currents is active, Crackling Energy continuously pulses and consumes no charges for that extra damage output. Then we are at level 27, spent 27 points, so we need 3 more points to spend to activate our second enhancement slot. So we're going into Coursing Currents. Hitting enemies with your shock skills increases your critical strike chance by 1%, resets up on getting a critical strike. We're doing it for this as we are getting some extra survivability as well with Electrocution. Enemies deal 5% less damage for 5 seconds after being critically struck by your shock skills. Because we are always spamming that Arc Lash, we will always do shock skills, so we will always have a 5% less damage for 5 seconds, or at least for forever, because there is no cooldown on there. So now we have Electrocution, then we can go on to Convulsions. And this is a very important one for this build as well. Lucky hit. Shock skills have up to 3% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. And this will come into the whole synergy of doing the damage against shock enemies. And we're just spamming that arc lash. So there is a big chance that they will get stunned, doing an extra damage output because they are getting stunned, and of course having some extra survivability because they don't know what to do. They're just sitting on their spot. So make sure to put another point into convulsion. Now that we reached level 30, we have 30 points active. When you reach level 31, you have an extra point, and we're going all the way up and stacking that into Fireball. But why Prime? Why would you go for Fireball? Because you're not using it as a skill. You are absolutely right, but this is going to be our second enhancement effect. So if you enhance this Fireball, when you kill an enemy, they explode in a Fireball for 50% of its damage. And the beautiful thing about this is that you do not have to use Fireball. It's every single kill. It doesn't matter how you take him out. If we're taking out with Arc Lash, if we're taking it out with our Unstable Currents, our special, everybody will explode for 50% of its damage. And that's the second enhancement skill that we will do. Make sure to enhance your skills. Do the Sorc mission. There is a special Sorc mission that you need to do, and then your enhancements for your skill tree, for your abilities will unlock. At level 15 we can do our first enhancement skill, and our second skill we can activate at level 30. So let's enhance our last enhancement slot, and then of course, like I explained, it's gonna be Fireball. Assign the Fireball, and again it pops up. When you kill an enemy, they explode in a Fireball for 50% of its damage. The most beautiful thing about this would be if you can find gear with one Fireball already on there, so you can get that skill point away. But again, that's all around the gear, and I will make a different video about this. This is just the basic build, the basic skills that you want to go for this incredibly strong and tanky Sorc build. And when you put 1 point in Fireball, we can go to our defensive skill tree again, and you go to the left, go to Elemental Atonement. And why are we going for this? Critical strikes have up to 5% chance to reset the cooldown of one of your defensive skills, and this can only happen once every 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4 defensive skills. So 4 defensive skills that we are using to make sure that we tank all the damage, do some extra stun, do some extra frozen, do some extra fire. This will all have a chance to be resetted. So in my opinion, put 3 points into this. And then you can see that we have the critical strike is up to 15% chance. But it definitely feels like a lot more than that. Because we're spamming that Arc Lash, because we are going in and trying to do as much critical strikes as possible to boost our damage up, to boost the explosions up, to boost our shock duration up. This is the way to go, and it will definitely help you out, because every time that one of your defensive skills resets, use it again, people around you are shocked for 0.7 seconds again. So if you do this correctly, you can have a 100% uptime on shock, just not use all the things together. For example, dive into a group with your teleport, then use your ice armor. If they are stopped with stunned, use your fire shield. If they're stopped with stunned, use your Frost Nova. They are stunned again and frozen. You do a lot more damage. And then of course, if you take them out, they will all explode through the enhancement skill that we did with the Fireball. And this all comes together so beautifully already in pretty early game, because we are around level 33, 34 right now. And now, because we stacked 3 points into Elemental Atonement, our last skill tree opens up that gives us the opportunity to choose a mastery. And just to complete all the synergy in this build, we're going for Fierce Mastery. And why are we going for Fierce Mastery? Close enemies take 10% increased damage for your shock skills. They will always have extra 10% damage income because we are just spamming our arc lash, a shock skill. So we will always have that 10% extra damage output, and the enemies deal 20% less to you. Again, because we're always spamming that arc lash, we will always have that 20% less damage to us. Again, some extra uptime. And now the beautiful thing is, critical strikes increase these bonuses by 25% for 3 seconds. Because we're working towards that critical build, that lucky hit build, this will almost always be 25% extra. So we're gaining an extra 25%, and that is just great. Extra damage output, less damage upon you, so you are a little bit more tanky. There is more survivability to it. Then after we spec into Fierce Mastery, we're gonna jump back to Convulsion and make sure to put this to level 3 as well, as this boosted it up to 9%. Shock skills have up to 9% chance to stun enemies for 3 seconds. Again, we're spamming Arc Lash all the time, so you have 9% to stun the enemies, because everything in our build is already around stun, freeze, fire and vulnerable. This will help you out a lot, doing a lot more damage, and of course keeping the enemies at the same spot. And then for the next few points, again, it is all up to you. We will go to the Conjuration skill tree, and we can go for Lucky Chance, or we can go for a little bit better survivability with Unline the Elements. In my opinion, just go for a little bit more survivability. You will come up to the end of the storyline. The enemies will become a little bit stronger. So get this for a little bit more survivability. Stack 1 point into this and then go to the protection itself. Because using a cooldown grants 10% of your maximum life as a barrier for 2 seconds. This is just base, so we're getting 112, but that's because we're not using any gear right now. This is just the base 3, and this will help you out a lot with survivability again. Using a cooldown, so whenever you use one of your skills, it goes into cooldown and you will get that barrier. Because we have a chance to get our defensive skills back with Elemental Atonement, this will come in clutch. You can just keep using it, and that's why we were gaining some extra 30% of your maximum life as a barrier, because we're gonna put all those points into protection. Then let's jump over to the Precision Magic, because this will give you an extra lucky hit chance. This is very, very useful, especially for this build. The more we crit, the more we stun, the more we blow up, the more we freeze, the more we do damage. So go for Precision Magic. Again, stack it up to 3 times. When you did your 3 points of Precision Magic, we will go down again, and we will go down to the ultimate skills and just make sure that we boost the Cursing Currents and the Electrocution. I'm skipping the Conduction because I don't really need the movement speed. So again, it is up to you what you want to do, but this build is just standing in front enemies and just taking them down, tanking the damage, and of course taking them out pretty damn quickly. So just put 2 more points into Cursing Currents and put 2 more points into Electrocution, because this will definitely help you a little bit later in the game, making sure that you survive all those strikes from the elites when you go dungeon crawling around that level 40 to level 50. And now we have 4 points left, and we're going to stack that into Inner Flames. Your Pyromancy skills deal 3% increase damage while you're healthy, but we're not doing it for the Inner Flames, we're doing it for the second node, and that's Devouring Blaze. You deal 10% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies if they are also immobilized. This bonus is increased to 25%. Because we're stunning, because we're freezing, they will always be immobilized, so put your last 3 points into Devouring Blaze, gaining an extra 30% increased critical strike damage against burning enemies. And if they're also immobilized, this bonus is increased to 75%. That is everything up to level 50, guys. All the skills that you need to go for to make this beautiful, beautiful build that you have been seeing in the background. And I'm just freaking enjoying it. I use this build from level 1 to all the way up to level 50. And as you can see, my Paragon board is already active. I didn't stack anything into my Paragon board just yet, because I wanted to show you just the base build, what you can go for and what you need to build towards if you want to go for that fire and ice and shock and vulnerable build that this is. It is very, very new player friendly. I am a new player to Diablo 4 as well, so you don't have to worry about it. Just fly into the enemies, make sure they're stunned, make sure they're on fire, make sure they are icy, and then just spam your arc lash. There's no mana needed whatsoever, because other Sorc builds, I tried a few other builds out as well, and the game is only saying to you, I need more time for that. I need more time for that. I need more time for that. My mana is too low. My mana is too low. You don't have to worry about that at all on this build, because this uses a lot of defensive skills and the basic skills that don't consume mana. So again, this is just a very, very nice build for you as a beginning player for World Tier 1 and World Tier 2. And if I'm not mistaken, and we're gonna test it out in the next couple of days live on Twitch/IamPurePrime, this will hold up in Nightmare Dungeons as well. And of course, adding that Paragon to it. So this is going to be a very, very nice build. And I will definitely keep you updated with the gear that I use. And of course, all the other extras that you want to go for to make this build even more powerful. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A little bit longer video, but this was explaining where to build towards with the skill tree. So within future videos, I will only show you what I will change, and then show you the gear and show you everything around it and what aspects to go for. But again, thank you very much for clicking on this video and sticking until the end. You are a freaking legend if you're still here. If you like this video, like the video down below. It helps me tremendously within the YouTube algorithm, and of course lets me know if you, the community, likes this sort of video. And of course, if you want to see more Diablo builds or Diablo content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I will come out with a lot more Diablo content as well. But that's pretty much it for today. I will catch you in the next one. PurePrime out.